Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Oleksandr Usyk reigns supreme again. So post-fight review for Usyk Dubois at Wembley, the undisputed showdown. Oleksandr Usyk stops Daniel Dubois, the hometown fighter, in 5 rounds. He drops Dubois twice in that 5th round, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. But this was greatness again from Oleksandr Usyk. A much more dominant display than the first fight 2 years ago. The questions, the controversy coming out of that first fight, all erased at this point. Any question marks, it's been put to rest by this dominant performance by Oleksandr Usyk, who was able to exert himself from the get-go. And it really was a sharp, snapping jab that set the tone early. And Oleksandr Usyk never really looked back from there. He was able to settle straight into his work. He said he was going to start fast, and he did. And it was behind the jab. The footwork, it was fluid as per usual right from the get-go, and he was exerting a lot of pressure with his movement and with, feints, foot feints, head feints, and Daniel Dubois, you could see he was a little bit stiff and tight. He didn't settle straight into things, and it was a huge occasion. 90,000 fans. Oleksandr Usyk absorbed all the pressure, wants all the smoke, all the accolades, and he was able to basically get into his work immediately and put Daniel Dubois under pressure. From, I think, about the 4th round on, he'd managed to get Daniel Dubois to effectively almost retire the jab. He had established his jab early, won the battle of the jabs, and Daniel Dubois didn't like that Oleksandr Usyk was coming over his jab, and he was worried about what was coming back because it would often be 2 or 3 punches in combination, and Oleksandr Usyk getting Daniel Dubois to just effectively retire that jab later in the fight. You had a situation with Usyk starting to land some really good, solid, snappy counter left hands, and there was a big one, I think it was in round 3 or round 4. And it was just a case, Daniel Dubois, when he tried to exert himself, he had little moments, but he couldn't quite settle into his work. He couldn't knock Usyk off his rhythm. He couldn't really get going how he would like to get going. It was Usyk in rhythm from the start and controlling the fight. And it was round 5 where we saw a really big left hand wobble Dubois. Moments later, they're trading in the corner, and you have Daniel Dubois taking a right hook, and he goes down. And it was moments later, after he'd beaten the count, that the fight comes to a conclusion. You have Daniel Dubois eating a huge right hand and then a huge left hook or left hand moments later, drops him like a sack of potatoes off a cliff. Daniel Dubois cannot answer the count, cannot beat it, and Oleksandr Usyk, the 2-time heavyweight undisputed champion. Obviously a huge and momentous feat for Usyk. Daniel Dubois, he looked like potentially he could have beaten the count, but Usyk had taken his soul by that point. I know that some people may question Daniel Dubois in the heart again because after the fight was waved off, he was immediately on his feet and back to his corner. Didn't seem to be on shaky legs like I maybe would have expected, but hey, it is what it is. It is in the books now. Oleksandr Usyk takes the spoils, really nullified and blunted the best of Daniel Dubois. Dubois could not settle into his fight plan, fight the way that he wanted to. Did not have a lot of success with the right hand. Did not have a lot of success with his body shots. Right hand and his body shots are amongst the best weapons in his arsenal. A lot of what he was throwing was being caught on the gloves by Usyk, who was finding those openings, who was opening Dubois up. And after round 4, where Daniel Dubois looked tired, he looked like all that pressure and mental energy and physical energy that he was having to exert just to stay in the fight had caught up with him to some extent. And it was Usyk who took advantage in that 5th round. I mean, it's hard to come up with too many more superlatives for the sorts of performances that we see from Usyk. But he did it again, proved his greatness again, and he made Daniel Dubois look, less and less like the guy, the one-man wrecking crew that we've seen in the last sort of year or two since his loss to Usyk, and more like a guy that was short of ideas and basically had nothing for Usyk. So Daniel Dubois loses to Usyk. He's 27 years old. He can come again. And after the fight, he did say, it is what it is. Oleksandr Usyk was pressed on who he would like to fight. There were Derek Chisora, Tyson Fury, Joseph Parker, and Agit Kabayel names thrown out by the ringside commentator to Usyk. Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, and Joseph Parker were names that were mentioned by Usyk. But he said, look, I need to wait 2 or 3 months. Frank Warren was a little bit more conclusive about who should be next, because there is an order from the WBO that Joseph Parker needs to have his mandatory shot against Usyk next. I think some of these things, I'll talk about them in other videos to come. But yeah, I think watch the space, because who's to say that Usyk doesn't go, well, actually, after some time off, maybe that's it. Maybe a belt could be scattered if he chases a fight with Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua next. It's possible. Anyway, post-fight review, we'll wrap it up here. Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.